I only signed up for the damn class because of a girl. Well, not a girl exactly. My ex, Laura. She's the kind of person who posts about how life begins outside your comfort zone while hiking a volcano barefoot or something equally smug. So when I ran into her at a coffee shop last month and she asked, "What are you doing creatively these days?" I panicked and blurted out, "Oh, I just joined a nude drawing class." I hadn't. But I sure did the next day. I found one at the local art center, Tuesday nights, figure drawing bodies in motion. It sounded legit. Adult students, all levels welcome, BYO sketchpad. I figured worst case scenario, I'd draw some hairy guy for a few weeks and prove to myself, and maybe Laura, in case we ever ran into each other again, that I wasn't the emotionally stunted guy she thought I was. What I didn't expect, what never even crossed my mind, was that he would be there, and not just as a student, but as the goddamn model. Let me back up. Class 1 started like any normal Tuesday night. I showed up 10 minutes early to the big open studio. Cement floors, paint-stained stools, the usual crunchy granola vibe. There was mellow indie music playing, and the instructor, a woman in her 50s with hot pink glasses and a scarf that might have been alive, greeted us with a cheerful, "Welcome, artists." I was setting up at my easel, pretending I knew what I was doing with my Vine charcoal and trying to look cool holding a kneaded eraser, when I heard the door open behind me. I glanced up, casually, and time just stopped. Standing in the doorway, barefoot and wrapped in a navy robe, was Aiden Keller, my roommate from sophomore year. The one I definitely had a thing for. The one who used to walk around shirtless all the time, scratching his stomach and yawning like some kind of feral golden retriever, totally unaware of what it did to me. We hadn't spoken in over 2 years. Not since I'd transferred out of our shared dorm mid-year with a lame excuse about needing more quiet to study. In truth, I couldn't take it anymore. The way he stretched in the mornings. The way he slept in boxers. The way I'd lie in bed, wondering what it would feel like if he accidentally, maybe just once, crawled into my bed instead of his. I told myself it was a harmless crush. But when I found myself drawing him from memory one night, shirtless, sprawled on our couch, reading some sci-fi novel, I knew I had to move out. It was too much. And now here he was, standing on the platform in front of me, and untying his robe. The fabric slid off his shoulders like a scene from a movie, and there he was, fully, completely, gloriously naked. My eyes shot to the floor. My face burned. I felt 15 again. No one else in the room seemed to recognize him, but I knew every inch of that body. I'd memorized it without meaning to, just from those endless nights of him padding around our shared room, changing with zero shame, totally unaware that I was dying in the bunk across from him. I couldn't look. I had to look. He hadn't seen me yet. Or if he had, he was playing it really cool. I forced myself to lift my sketch pad and start drawing, but my hand was shaking. The first pose was a standing contrapposto, one hip cocked, arm raised above his head. I knew that stance. He used to stretch like that after soccer practice. I wasn't just drawing him now. I was remembering him. And it felt intimate, exposed somehow, like I was the one naked. He shifted into the next pose, this time seated. Legs apart, arms resting on his thighs. That's when he looked directly at me and smirked. Just a flicker. A quick tug at the corner of his mouth. He knew. Holy shit. He knew I was here. And he was messing with me. I stared back, dumbfounded. He held my gaze for a moment, then looked away like it meant nothing. Like I wasn't about to sweat through my shirt in the middle of a 30-minute gesture drawing. The rest of the session was a blur. My sketches looked like they'd been done by someone with no fingers. When class ended, people started packing up and chatting, but I stayed glued to my stool, hoping I could sneak out without having to talk to him. No such luck. I was wiping off my hands when I felt a tap on my shoulder. "Eli?" His voice hadn't changed. Deep, casual, just a little teasing. I turned, and there he was. Robed again, smiling like this was no big deal. "Aiden?" I managed. "Hey," he laughed softly. "Long time no see." "Yeah. 2 years, I think. You always take nude drawing classes on weeknights. Or is this a new hobby? I flushed. It's for credit. Mm-hmm, he said, like he didn't believe me for a second. I couldn't tell if I wanted to crawl into a hole or never leave this moment. He tilted his head. You want to grab a coffee or something? Catch up? I blinked. Now? He nodded. Why not? Unless you're too flustered from seeing my... Okay, I cut him off, heart pounding. Coffee sounds good, he grinned. Cool, you're buying. You owe me for the free anatomy lesson. I laughed, despite myself. I had no idea what this meant, why he was here. If he remembered that night, I caught him half asleep, mumbling my name in his bed. But one thing was suddenly very clear. This wasn't going to be just another drawing class. The coffee shop was only a few blocks from the studio, but the walk felt longer with Aiden beside me. He was still wearing the robe. Well, he'd thrown on a hoodie and joggers over it, but the fact that he'd just been completely naked in front of me made everything feel weirdly intimate, like we were walking home together after something much more private than a figure drawing session. So, he said, his breath fogging a little in the night air, did you know it was me? Nope, I said quickly. I didn't even know they rotated models. Yeah, they do. Every few weeks, depending on availability. He glanced sideways at me. You looked like you saw a ghost. I laughed. I kind of did. He smiled at that, but it faded fast. I wasn't sure if you'd recognize me, or if you'd just pretend you didn't. I'm not that much of a dick. Could have fooled me, he said quietly. Oof. There it was, that little flicker of tension. The thing we'd never talked about. The way I'd left our dorm mid-semester without really saying goodbye. The late-night stretch of silence after I transferred to a single room and avoided eye contact every time we crossed paths on campus. We reached the cafe, one of those indie places with too much reclaimed wood and overpriced chai lattes. Inside, it was warm and quiet, mostly empty this late. Aiden ordered a black coffee. I got a hot chocolate because I'm weak, apparently. We found a table in the back near the windows. The glow of the city spilled in around us, streetlights reflecting off his cheekbones. You look good, he said, like it was casual. I blinked. You too. You're obviously in shape. He laughed. Perks of freelance modeling. Gotta keep it tight. That made me smile. Is that what you're doing full-time now? Nah. I do it between jobs. I'm bartending again. Nights, mostly. This was just something new to try. Figured, why not? Didn't expect to be drawn by your former roommate, though. He tilted his head. No, that was a surprise. A weird one, if I'm honest. I took a sip of hot chocolate, trying to keep my hands from fidgeting. Weird like, bad? He didn't answer right away. Then, no, just weird like, unfinished business weird. That hit harder than I expected. We sat in silence for a moment, the hum of the espresso machine in the background. I never meant to ghost you, I said finally. Aiden looked up. I didn't transfer because I hated you or anything. I went on. I needed space. I was dealing with stuff. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I figured. You did? You barely looked at me those last few weeks. I knew something was off. He leaned back in his chair, his eyes dark but not unkind. I thought maybe I'd done something. No, I said, fast. God, no, you didn't. He raised an eyebrow. I was into you, okay? I blurted out. Silence. I had this stupid, hopeless crush on you, and I couldn't handle it. You were always half naked and being all you. I gestured vaguely, like that explained it. And I was spiraling. So I bailed. Aiden blinked. I'm not proud of it, I added. There was a pause. Then to my absolute horror, he smiled. Well, shit, he said. That's kind of flattering. I stared. You're not weirded out? Dude, he said, shaking his head. You just watched me stand around naked for an hour. If I was going to be weirded out, that ship sailed. I snorted. Fair. But also, he said, leveling his gaze at me, you think I didn't notice the way you used to look at me? I froze. Late at night, when you thought I was asleep, he went on, casually sipping his coffee, you weren't exactly subtle. Oh my God, he grinned. It was kind of cute, honestly. I dropped my face into my hands. Please let me die right now. He laughed. And then, his voice softer, he added, I didn't mind, you know. I looked up. What? Aiden shifted, looking out the window. At the time, I didn't know what I was feeling. You were safe, kind, you listened, and yeah, you were cute. I just never thought you'd actually feel anything for me. I didn't think I could, I admitted. Not really. You were so... you. He turned back to me. Yeah, well, maybe I was waiting for you to say something. The words hung between us. Something old and raw and strangely new all at once. So, he said, leaning forward, you want to catch the next class? You mean come back and draw you again? He smirked. Unless you're scared. I'm not scared, I lied. Good. Because I'd like to see how you draw me when you're not too flustered to hold the pencil. I laughed, shaking my head. You're unbelievable, he grinned. And you missed it. I bit my lip, meeting his gaze. Yeah, I did. Aiden tilted his head. Then maybe this is your second chance. I did go back the next week. Of course I did. And yeah, I tried to play it cool when Aiden walked in wearing that same navy robe, his hair still damp like he'd showered 10 minutes before. But the truth is, I was counting the minutes until he stepped on the platform again. This time, he caught my eye the moment he walked in and gave me this quick little nod. Like a secret. Like, we're good now, right? And I nodded back. My stomach did a little backflip. When the robe came off, I wasn't as flustered. Okay, I was still flustered, just better at hiding it. I focused on my lines, the angles of his shoulders, the curve of his neck. I let myself really look at him this time, not just in that wow he's hot way, but as an artist. Which, shockingly, helped. He posed like he was born to do it. Comfortable in his skin. And every now and then, between poses, he'd catch me watching and raise an eyebrow. Like he was daring me to draw him honestly. I tried. God, I tried. When class ended, he didn't wait for me to approach. He met me by the sink while I was washing charcoal off my fingers. You didn't suck this time, he said, glancing at my sketchpad. Thanks for the glowing review. He smirked. I mean it. You caught something. Your ass? He laughed. That too, but the expression, when I was sitting in the second pose, you got it. I didn't say anything right away, because I knew what he meant. That pose, elbows on knees, head tilted down, like he was thinking too hard. It wasn't just physical. There was something else. Sadness, maybe, or memory. You okay? I asked quietly. He shrugged, looking suddenly less cocky. Rough day. Doesn't matter. It does. His eyes flicked to mine. You still draw outside of class? Sometimes. He hesitated, then said, You want to come over? Hang out? Sketch if you want. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to, but because my brain was screaming, this is happening too fast, right? But then I remembered how quiet it got when we sat at that coffee shop last week. The kind of quiet that only exists when there's unfinished business between two people. Yeah, I said, I'd like that. His apartment was small but clean. Second floor tiny balcony, worn couch, sketchbook stacked on a side table. He tossed his hoodie onto a chair and flopped down, barefoot, like he owned the place. I looked around. You actually live like an artist. Because I am, he said, grinning. A part-time one. He handed me a beer without asking if I wanted one, which somehow felt more intimate than if he had. We sat on the couch, our legs brushing now and then. He was close, Not in a flirty way, not yet, but in a comfortable way. Familiar, like we'd just picked up where we left off, minus the awkward part where I used to lie awake wishing he'd crawl into my bed. "You remember that night?" I said suddenly. He looked over. "Which one?" "You were half asleep, said my name." His jaw tightened slightly. "Yeah. I never asked you about it. I didn't know if you meant anything by it." "I did," he said, no hesitation, "but I didn't know what to do with it back then." "And now?" Now he turned fully toward me, one leg folded under the other. "Now I kind of wish you hadn't transferred." "Me too." He smiled, but it was smaller this time, more real. Then he said, "You want to draw me again?" I blinked. "Now?" "Yeah. Here, not on a stage, just me." I hesitated, but then nodded. "Okay." He stood, pulling his t-shirt over his head. Then his joggers. He didn't make a show of it, didn't tease. It wasn't sexual. It was just Aiden, comfortable again in his own skin. He sat on the couch, legs bent, arm resting on the back cushion, looking at me like he was letting me see something he hadn't shared with anyone else. I picked up my sketch pad, and I drew. Not the abs or the obvious lines. I drew his expression, his vulnerability. The way his body curved slightly inward, like he wasn't sure he could fully relax, but was trying. He didn't speak while I sketched, just sat there, watching me. When I finally put my pencil down, I exhaled. "Okay, done." He got up, patted over, and looked down at the page. For a moment, he said nothing then. "Is that really how you see me?" "Yeah." He was quiet again, then said, "You're good." I had a good subject. He looked up. And whatever had been sitting in the space between us cracked wide open. His hand brushed mine. Then, without asking, he leaned in. His lips were soft, careful at first, like he was testing the water. I kissed him back, slow and steady. No fireworks, no rush. Just two people, finally meeting in the middle of a story they'd both been quietly writing for years. When we pulled back, he smiled. Wide, real, all teeth. "About time," he said. I stayed the night. Not because we planned it. Not because anything intense happened. Just because it felt natural. After that kiss, Aiden didn't push. He just pulled a blanket from the back of the couch, tossed it over us, and started flipping through Netflix like we'd done this 100 times before. Like I hadn't spent 2 years wondering what it would be like to kiss him. We ended up watching some dumb comedy. We didn't talk much. I leaned against his shoulder. He let his fingers rest lightly on my thigh. It was subtle, but it said everything. And when I finally started dozing off, he shifted so I could stretch out. I woke up around 3 a.m. to find him asleep, head tilted back against the armrest, mouth slightly open. I just looked at him for a while. There was something peaceful about him when he wasn't performing. When he wasn't teasing or posing or making jokes. I reached out and touched his hand. He didn't wake up, but he turned it over in his sleep and laced our fingers together. In the morning, he made terrible coffee and burned the toast. I didn't care. We sat on his tiny balcony in sweatpants, sipping our drinks, watching the city wake up. "Do you still talk to anyone from college?" he asked. I shook my head. "Not really. You?" "Not really," he echoed, then added, "I always thought I'd bump into you again." "You did," I said. "Yeah, but like, before this." He looked at me, eyes squinting in the sun. "I used to go by the art building, hoping I'd see you. That surprised me." "You did?" He nodded. "Figured maybe I'd catch you in a hallway, pretend it was an accident." "Why didn't you?" He shrugged. "Maybe I was scared you hated me." I smiled. "No, I hated me." Aiden didn't answer right away. Then he said, "You didn't deserve that. That kind of pressure. You weren't ready." And I wasn't being fair either. Walking around half naked, acting like you didn't matter to me. My chest tightened. Did I? He looked at me for a long moment. Yeah. You did. We sat with that, let it hang in the air like early sun. I don't know what this is, I admitted, gesturing between us, but I don't want to mess it up. Then don't, he said simply. Let's just see where it goes. I nodded. Okay. For the next few weeks, we saw each other constantly. Tuesday nights were our thing. I'd go to the drawing class. He'd model. We'd trade looks across the room, try not to smirk like idiots. I'd sketch like my life depended on it. He'd pose like he was trying to tell me something through every tilt of his body. After class, we'd grab dinner. Sometimes at his place, sometimes mine. We'd talk, draw, kiss. Sometimes more. But it wasn't just about the physical stuff. There was something weirdly healing about being with him now. Like every night we spent in silence back in college had somehow folded into this new rhythm. This quieter, braver version of us. One night, after a particularly good session, I showed him a new sketchbook. Been drawing a lot lately, I said, flipping through pages. Most of the drawings were of him. Not just the model poses, but little things. Him on the couch, him drinking coffee, him brushing his teeth. You're obsessed, he teased. Maybe. He grinned, flipping through the pages with reverence. No one's ever drawn me like this. Like what? Like they see me. I swallowed. I do. But not everything was perfect. One Thursday, he texted late. Can't hang this weekend, sorry, shit came up. Then nothing. I waited, gave him space. By Sunday, I caved and called. He didn't pick up. By Monday, I was spiraling. Was this the part where it ended? The part where I'd wake up from the dream? Then Tuesday night came, and he didn't show up to class. Marlene, our instructor, looked annoyed. Our model canceled last minute. We'll have to reschedule. The class murmured in confusion. I sat there, cold, staring at the platform where he should have been. Something was wrong, and I needed to find out what. The second I left the studio, I texted him. You okay? No response. I waited a few minutes, pacing outside in the cold. Then I gave up and did the thing I hadn't done in weeks. I went to his apartment. His building was quiet, the buzzer echoing in the hallway like it had something to prove. No answer. I tried again. Still nothing. Just when I was about to turn around and leave, the front door creaked open. A neighbor was coming in with a pizza box. I slipped through behind them without asking. I climbed the stairs 2 at a time. Apartment 204. I knocked once. Then again. Still nothing. I was about to give up when the door finally opened. Aiden stood there, barefoot, eyes heavy, hoodie hanging off one shoulder. Hey, I said quietly. He looked like shit. Not in a dramatic way. Just worn down. Like he hadn't slept. Like something had been pressing on him from the inside. I didn't think you'd come, he said. Why wouldn't I? He shrugged, stepping aside so I could come in. The apartment smelled like old coffee and something slightly burnt. A half-eaten sandwich sat on the table. His sketch pad was open, smudged with charcoal, like he'd been working and then gave up halfway. He dropped back onto the couch, sinking into the cushions like he'd been waiting to fall apart. I didn't want you to see me like this, he said after a while. Like what? He rubbed a hand over his face. Tired, messy, not the guy who poses all confident and makes dumb jokes. I sat beside him. Not too close, not yet. What happened? He didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, my dad called. First time in 2 years. I sat up straighter. Shit, what did he want? Apparently he's getting remarried. Wanted to know if I was coming. Are you? He gave a hollow laugh. To a man who kicked me out at 19 because I told him I liked guys. Who said I was? Choosing a harder life. I felt my jaw tighten. I didn't know. I didn't tell you, he said, looking at me now. Back then, I was so sure you'd freak out. I wouldn't have. He looked down. I know that now, but I didn't then. You were quiet, always sketching. I thought you were judging me. I was falling for you, I said. He smiled, just barely. I skipped class because I didn't want to fall apart in front of you, he admitted. And now? He looked at me, eyes red but steady. Now I just want you to stay. So I did. That night, I didn't leave his apartment. We didn't get to that point. We didn't even kiss. We just sat on the couch, legs tangled, watching dumb YouTube videos and eating leftover takeout. And at some point, Aiden fell asleep against my chest, breathing slow and deep, his hand resting over mine like it had always belonged there. The next morning, I woke up before him. I made coffee, real coffee this time, not the burnt sludge he'd been surviving on, and left it beside the bed. Then I picked up his sketch pad. Most of it was blank, but near the back I found a page that made me stop breathing. It was a drawing of me, sleeping, my face half buried in his pillow. Lines soft, careful, intimate. He'd drawn me the way I'd drawn him, not just as a subject, but as something real. I set it down carefully and climbed back into bed. His eyes opened as I slid under the blanket. Hey, he murmured. Hey, I whispered. I was hoping you'd still be here. I'm not going anywhere. He exhaled. Good. We lay there, forehead to forehead, wrapped in sheets and honesty. Whatever this was, it was ours now. No platform, no posing. Just us. The next few weeks settled into something that felt almost domestic. Tuesday nights still meant class, except Aiden didn't model anymore. He told Marlene he needed a break. Said he wanted to try focusing on his own art again. She didn't ask questions, just smiled and told him she'd keep the spot open if he changed his mind. So now he sat next to me during class, sketchbook in hand, pretending not to peek at my work and failing miserably. You made my nose too nice, he whispered once during a warm-up sketch. I don't have a hero nose. You absolutely do, I whispered back. It's disgusting. He grinned and nudged my thigh with his knee, and for a second, I forgot we were surrounded by other students, and pretended the whole room belonged to just us. After class, we'd walk home together, sometimes detouring to grab noodles or sit by the river, talk about everything and nothing. Sometimes about our pasts, sometimes about our plans, and sometimes, when we were quiet long enough, just about how damn good it felt to be here, now, finally on the same page. But there were moments, still, when I'd catch something behind his eyes, something he wasn't saying. One night, while he was brushing his teeth and I was lying on his bed scrolling aimlessly, I said, Do you ever think about telling your dad? He looked at me in the mirror, toothbrush still in his mouth. You already told him, I know, I said quickly. But I mean, now, about us. He rinsed, spat, and toweled his mouth. Why? Because we're not hiding anymore. From each other, I mean. He dried his hands slowly. I think about it. I just don't know if I want him to have access to this part of me. To us. That stung a little, even though I knew what he meant. I'm not ashamed, he added. I swear I'm not. I know, I said, but it still sucks. He crossed the room and sat on the bed beside me. You want to meet my mom instead? That caught me off guard. Seriously? She'd love you. She already thinks I'm secretly dating someone? Oh yeah. He smirked. Said I'm too chipper lately for it to be just sleep and vitamins. I laughed. Your mom sounds kind of amazing. She is. She's the one who helped me move out when things blew up with my dad. His voice cracked slightly at the end. I reached out and took his hand. We didn't say anything else for a while. Just sat there, fingers laced, listening to the quiet hum of the heater and the sound of the world continuing outside. Meeting his mom was weirdly great. She hugged me like she'd known me forever, made a joke about Aiden needing someone to balance out his occasional dumbass tendencies, and then proceeded to grill me about my art while serving homemade lasagna. Aiden looked like he wanted to sink through the floor, but I loved every second of it. After dinner, she pulled me aside while Aiden was doing dishes. "I'm glad he has you," she said softly. "He's been through a lot, more than he lets on." "I know," I said. "Just be good to him." "I will." She smiled and squeezed my arm. "Good, because if you're not, I'll have to hunt you down and make you listen to my full Neil Diamond vinyl collection, front to back." It was both a threat and a blessing. Later that night, back at his place, Aiden curled into me on the couch. "She likes you," he mumbled against my chest. "She threatened me with Neil Diamond." "That means you're in." I smiled and kissed the top of his head. "Good." We sat like that until we both fell asleep. But all good things have a rhythm, and eventually that rhythm stutters. Aiden got an offer to model full-time for a private studio downtown. Better pay, more flexible hours. "It's a great gig," he said, eyes bright but cautious. "They only take a few models a year." "That's amazing," I said, genuinely happy for him. "You're gonna kill it." "There's a catch," he added. "It's in Chicago," I stared. "Chicago?" 3 months. Maybe more. Just a trial period. "Oh." My voice sounded small, even to me. He watched me closely. "You mad?" "No. Just surprised. You think I shouldn't go?" "I think." "I don't know what I think yet." Aiden reached for my hand. "I want this with you. I'm not backing off." "Even from Chicago?" "Especially from Chicago." I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said. "Then we figure it out." He kissed me, soft, grateful. "Thank you." But that night, when I lay awake, listening to his breathing beside me, I couldn't help wondering, was this the beginning of something bigger? Or the start of goodbye? Aiden left on a Sunday. It was raining, because of course it was. One of those slow, gray drizzles that makes everything feel like a sad indie movie. I helped him carry his duffel bags down to the rideshare. We didn't say much. He kept making dumb jokes about forgetting his sketch pad, or how he'd probably miss my coffee more than he'd miss me, and I kept laughing because it was easier than crying. But then the driver showed up, and the jokes stopped. He looked at me like he wasn't sure if he was supposed to say something dramatic or just go. In the end, he did neither. He just pulled me in and hugged me, tight, like something in him didn't want to let go. "I'll text when I land," he murmured against my shoulder. "You better," I said. He pulled back slightly, eyes shining. "You good?" "No," I said. "But I will be." He kissed me one last time, short, deep, full of everything we didn't have the words for. Then he got in the car, and he was gone. Long distance is weird. It's not bad, exactly. It's just a constant hum under everything, like a missing line in a drawing. Your eye notices even when no one else does. We texted constantly, called every few nights. Sometimes video chatted, though the connection was always slightly off, and one of us would freeze mid-sentence. I sketched him from memory a lot. Then I started sketching the places I missed him the most: the couch, the balcony, his side of the bed. He sent me photos too. Not sexy ones, just little moments. A sandwich he made. The train platform at sunset. A messy charcoal sketch of a coffee cup with a sticky note attached that said, "This looks better in my head. Like you." God, I missed him. But then came the 3-week stretch. No calls. Barely any texts. At first, I told myself he was busy. New city, new studio, new people. But by the second week, I started spiraling. Overthinking. Wondering if maybe Chicago had given him a taste of something different. Maybe I was the comfort zone he didn't need anymore. On a particularly bad night, I tried to draw but couldn't focus. My lines were sloppy. Nothing felt right. So I did something dumb. I booked a bus ticket. 14 hours. Overnight. Cheap seat. I didn't tell him. I just needed to see him. When I finally arrived, it was snowing lightly. Chicago looked like a snow globe, Someone had shaken too hard. I had his address from a package he'd sent me. I buzzed the front of his building and waited. Nothing. I buzzed again. Still nothing. I was just about to turn around when the door opened, someone else coming out, and I slipped inside. I climbed the stairs, heart pounding. Apartment 3B. I knocked. Silence. Then, after what felt like an hour, the door opened a crack, and there he was. Tired, shirtless, eyes wide in shock. "Eli?" I stared at him. "You weren't answering." His mouth opened, closed, then, "Shit. What's going on?" He stepped aside to let me in, rubbing his face. "Sorry, I've been a mess." Inside, the apartment was small and half-furnished. His art stuff was in the corner, half-packed. A few takeout containers on the table. No sign of anyone else. I dropped my bag. "Are you okay?" He sat on the couch and put his head in his hands. "I was gonna come back early." "What?" "I quit the studio last week," I blinked. "Why?" "They were great. Professional. But it didn't feel right. The people were cold. The poses were mechanical. I missed being seen. Really seen. The way you look at me when you draw me." I sat beside him. "You should have told me." I was embarrassed. "I thought maybe I made a mistake coming here." I touched his arm. "You didn't." He looked up, eyes rimmed red. "I missed you so much. I got on a bus." "You idiot." He laughed softly, pulling me in. "You sweet, beautiful idiot." He kissed me again. This time, it wasn't about saying goodbye. This time, it was about coming home. We stayed in Chicago for 3 more days. We didn't do anything touristy. No bean, no deep dish pizza, no skyline selfies. We barely left the apartment. It wasn't a romantic getaway. It was a reset. We slept late, talked more than we had in months, and made pancakes with too much syrup. He showed me the pieces he'd been working on, mostly sketches of crowded L trains and tired faces. Beautiful, lonely work. "It's good," I told him. He shook his head. "It's not honest." "What do you mean?" "I haven't drawn anything that feels like me since I left." He turned one sketchbook toward me, flipping to a page near the back. It was me, not posed, not graceful, just sitting on the couch in my hoodie, slumped sideways, hair a mess, mouth slightly open, like I'd just woken up and hadn't yet remembered I was alive. "You did this from memory?" He nodded. "It's the only thing I've drawn that doesn't feel fake." I stared at the page. Not because it was a perfect drawing, it wasn't, but because I could see how he saw me. Like I was still the person he waited for, even when he wasn't sure I'd come. On the 4th morning, I asked him, "What now?" He stretched, still half asleep, the blanket slipping off one shoulder. "We go home," I blinked. "Home?" He sat up. "Yeah, I've been thinking about it. Chicago's not it. I got what I came for. I proved to myself I could do this. But I don't want to be here without you." I didn't know what to say at first, so I just kissed him. Soft, slow. "I want you to come back," I whispered. He smiled. "Then let's go." We took a train instead of the bus. He rested his head on my shoulder somewhere in Indiana, and I traced idle circles on the back of his hand until he fell asleep. The sun came through the window in soft fractured beams, catching in his hair. I didn't draw him. Not that day, I just looked. Sometimes, that's enough. Back in the city, everything felt slightly different. The same streets, the same coffee shop, the same studio. But something had shifted. Aiden moved back into a place a few blocks from mine. We didn't rush anything. We didn't suddenly fuse into one of those couples that posts joint grocery runs and pet names. We just were, present, open, ourselves. We kept going to class. He started modeling again, occasionally, not every week, and when he did, I never stopped being the guy who looked at him like he was something worth pausing for. I started a new series of sketches. Nothing fancy. Just Aiden, in moments most people wouldn't think to capture. Buttoning a shirt, reading the news, tying his shoes. I called the series Unposed. Months later, we had our first gallery night. Small, local thing. Friends, professors, strangers who wandered in off the street. Aiden stood next to me, sipping from a plastic cup of red wine, watching people react to his image 100 different ways. "You think they see me the way you do?" he asked under his breath. "No," I said, "but that's okay." He looked at me sideways. "Yeah? Because I'm the only one who gets to draw you in the quiet." He smiled. "God, you're sappy. Deal with it." He leaned in, bumped my shoulder with his. "I love you." I didn't flinch. I didn't hesitate. I love you too. We never went back to being who we were before. Because we weren't supposed to. We were always meant to grow into this version of us. Messy, honest, held together by charcoal smudges and late-night phone calls, and one impossible coincidence in a life drawing class. And every time I pick up a pencil now, I remember the first time I looked up and saw him there. Naked, confident, real. And I remember thinking, what the hell is he doing here? Now I know the answer. He was showing up for me. And finally, I showed up for him too.